Me out. It got me hyped.
Sweet. I literally watched all 52 parts. This is Epic Thoughts.
About
wah, wah.
What was it? What I didn't get the joke.
So on TikTok, there's this lady who did a 52-part series on who I married. She basically called it "Who the F Did I Marry," and she tells a story, and it's 10 minutes each part, and it was 52 parts of this story that she was married to this pathological liar.
Okay.
And it was the most dramatic thing I've ever heard in my life. And I sat there and watched 52 parts.
Oh, you did? Oh,
yes.
I thought that was the joke of the...
No, the joke is I watched
You
it.
literally watched 52 parts.
Yes. And she's like she's got it almost broke the internet.
Oh.
It's crazy.
It didn't break my internet. It didn't even break through to my internet.
Because you've been busy.
I've been a little busy.
The joke failed, Rice.
I didn't see that. I got to watch it now.
Yeah, too.
Okay.
But it's 52 minutes. It took me 3 days. I had to stop.
It's 52 minutes. It took you 3 days?
52 parts.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait a second.
Yeah, 52 parts. And it was 10 minutes each part.
I'll watch it. It sounds like something that I'll be interested in.
Oh, it's drama. Yes.
I love it.
Yes. It was a Lifetime movie that this woman went.
Oh, my God. Oh, yeah. I'll be into it. My parents watch Lifetime movies all the time.
Oh, yeah. This one's crazy. Welcome, everybody, to Epic Thoughts. I am your host, Rohmon, and thank you for your support, and thank you for tuning in with me. I always got my friend Rice in the sound booth. What's up, Rice?
What's
up? He's a man of few words. But I'm really, really pumped today, guys, because we've been trying to make this happen for like the last couple months. Way too long. And to get her in the studio, and she is finally here, and I'm super excited. And at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like God's time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Clearly it was. Because when we were trying to get a couple months ago, it was like, would have been a good time, but today is probably one of the best times to get you in here.
I'm stoked. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So let me introduce you guys. Let me give her a proper introduction. She is she's a world-renowned author.
World-renowned.
She's world-renowned. She is an amazing singer, great performer. She plays Brittany on Superficially Deep. I do. She's on Superficially Deep, so she's an amazing actress. She's been on several different projects with me on Superficially Deep, and she's in her brother's projects at American Cheese. American Cheese. The one and only Mia Battaglia is in the building.
Woo! That's me.
That's you. Man, I'm so pumped you're here.
I'm so happy to be here. I love this place. I already feel home.
Oh, good.
It's a great time.
That was the purpose.
Yeah. You did a really good job making it feel like I walked into my own house.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
When you walk in a room, you're just like, do you know any strangers? Because you're just a really nice person.
Do I know strangers?
Yeah, like that's a term that old heads use when they say, man, that person don't know no strangers. That means that they just connect with people.
Oh.
Do you easily connect with people?
I do. And it's funny because I deal with the fact that I feel like people sounds crazy, but I feel like people don't like me all the time. And yet I will just talk to them to ensure that they feel that I'm not feeling that way. Yeah. It's crazy because I was like, oh, I feel like people hate me immediately.
Also, you're overly open.
Yeah, well, kind of. Like I'll walk in a room and I'll be like, oh, I want them to know that I'm really friendly because I get nervous.
Right.
To talk to people. And I'm like, no, I want them to know that I'm friendly. But then, I connect with people really easily after I break my own ice. I don't know if that made any sense.
It does. It's almost like you step down from your own imaginary, because you don't have a high horse, but you're just like in front of them, I'm going to step down and make myself more human.
Yeah.
Or more connectable.
Yeah. Because I don't want people to look at me and be like, oh, she's mean. Because for some reason, that was like the vibe I gave off when I was younger, and everybody thought I was mean. But I'm not mean. I'm like the nicest person.
You're the sweetest person I know.
I was like, trust me, I'm not going to be mean unless you make me mean.
Yeah.
Don't mess with me.
How mean are you when you get mean?
I'm a turn the cheek person. Oh, okay. I really am. I like God handle you, which is probably better than me.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'll talk to you. I'll give you a nice stern talking to. I won't. If you want me to punch you, I will. But I mean, I'm a nice person. I try to be nice.
Yeah.
But I'll come at you if I have to.
That's great. You win me over every time. I remember every time I come to be in that.
Yeah, be a no.
Okay, I always gotta make sure I say my
Brand New Life.
Brand New Life. Every time I come to Brand New Life and you greet me and I see you, it's like my day's fine.
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
I like making people feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
I like making people feel like they're wanted to be somewhere, you know, because I see you and I get really excited to see you. I genuinely do.
Yeah.
But even if I'm not excited to see somebody, I want to make them feel like because maybe they don't get that throughout their day, you know? I want people to I don't know what people are doing. I like when people get excited to see me.
Yeah.
Like sometimes people see each other and I'm like, I wish people would greet me that way. They like freak out, like they haven't seen each other forever. And I'm like, that would be cool if I had that sort of energy because it hypes you up.
Yeah.
So I was like, if I could do that to other people, that'd be pretty cool. So I try to treat people like, I want to be treated.
That's awesome. Man, we're so excited to have her. And let me tell you, man, this person is one of the most inspiring people. If I can make a list right now, I know it's only February, but if I made my Real Baby list of top inspiring people of 2024, number one on the list right now and leading the way is this young lady in front of me.
Wow.
This is her new book. Let me make sure. Yeah, I put it in frame. She just released this book. 2 weeks?
On Friday. Last Friday.
So 1 week.
1 week ago. It's his 1 week birthday to yesterday. Yeah.
This is a beautiful novel. I prefer Peter.
Yeah.
Mine is on the way. I had to order mine on Amazon because I made a mistake in my timing and I missed your grand opening, which I wanted to be there so bad. But this is this is a novel.
Yeah.
Like this isn't like a 30-page book.
No, I know. It's crazy.
How long did this take you to write?
That took me 2 years. 2 years to write. Man. Because, it's funny. I did not think I was going to finish that. I didn't think I was going to start it. And then it kind of just happened. I put a storyboard together. The story was not that when I first started writing it. Things evolve and it's completely different. But it wasn't. I originally said this book is going to be no more than 250 pages. That's it. I was like, nobody's going to want to read a 500-page book, whatever. It's not even, I don't even have an idea to make a page how farther than, 250. And I'm writing it and I reach page 250 and I'm like, the story just started. Like, what am I going to do? So I was just like, I'm going to write and then I'll cut. I wrote to page 450, cut 20 pages just because of edits. And I was like, that's just how it's going to be. I was like, I love the book. I'm like, if I love it this much, people are going to read it. I was like, if people read Harry Potter and those books some of the books out there right now are like 900 pages and people are like, finished it in 3 days. And I'm like, all right, cool. This is beginner then.
Yeah. So what's the book about? Tell us what the book about.
All right. So the book, it's called I Prefer Peter. It is a dark fantasy book. And I'm in love with it. I love fantasy. And I Prefer Peter is basically a dark reimagining of how Peter Pan becomes Peter Pan. People hear Peter Pan and they think it's for kids. But I wanted a book because I love fantasy. I'm 24. And I don't want to say that I'm old or anything, but I'm an adult who likes fantasy. And every time I read a fantasy book, it's for kids and it's, it's all the same.
Yes.
But I wanted a book that has, a little bit of dark and twisted, a little bit more real. I mean, the book has language. It has some content that's not for kids, but I wanted people who love fantasy to also enjoy reading a book about fantasy. And it takes place in 2024. And it's as if Peter is just this random demoralized kid who was on drugs and he has a really hard life. And he's kind of a loner outcast kid. And he has a lot going on, but I wanted to make him see that no matter what your past was or is, he could become a hero. So it's kind of how this kid, his name's Benjamin. Later, you'll figure out why he prefers Peter. It's his middle name, but he actually ends up going to a rehabilitation center for drugs.
Wow.
And it's kind of a spoiler, but not really. It's great. You'll see how he gets there. And he ends up going on these, it says on the back of the book, so it's not really a spoiler, that he escapes the rehab with these people that he meets. And they stumble upon, by accident, this magical land. It's kind of like they entered Narnia almost.
Yeah.
And these, with these creatures, and they're called the Peculiars. And they have been waiting for this king, the savior, to come for centuries because their king sacrificed his life in order to keep them protected. And they've been waiting for this creature, person, whatever, God, to show up. And this kid shows up and he's like, has this imposter anti-hero syndrome. And he's like, well, it's not me. I don't even know how I got here. But you have to be a peculiar in order to enter. It's called Paragon. And they're like, well, it has to be you. Like, there's certain reasons why, but I can't say why. That they kind of know. And then he kind of finds out, well, I either have to save these people because the magic of Paragon is dying. And if magic of Paragon dies, they die.
Wow.
And he's like, well, I either have to save Paragon and all the people in it, or I have to, you know, give up this purpose and let them all die.
Wow.
So he has to save Paragon or die trying, basically, is what I do. And it's like he has this journal that he's gotten since he was younger. And it ends up being like a crucial point to the story. It's like a magic journal. It's kind of like, I always relate it to bedtime stories, that movie with Adam Sandler where you write stuff and it happens.
Yes.
So it's kind of like that. And the journal plays a huge element to it. That's why the cover is a journal, if you look at it.
Oh yeah.
And I loved that when God gave me that idea. I was like, oh, it's going to be a journal. It's going to be so cool. So that's kind of like a long nutshell of the basis of the story. I don't want to give too much away, but the characters will become your best friends. They're so much fun. I put so much love into these characters.
Yeah.
They're the friends I've always wanted.
So why Peter? Why did you decide to use Peter as this for the storytelling?
So I've loved Peter Pan since I was little. And I have read, it's weird, but it's not. I've read over 50 Peter Pan retellings.
Oh, really?
There's
that many?
There's a lot. I found them. I didn't know it was a genre. It's not real. I made it a genre because I read so many. But fairy tale retellings are a thing. And there's so many different types. People always think that they're just like kid books or like Peter Pan retellings, but there's horror ones. There's sexy ones.
With Peter Pan?
Yeah, but he's old. He's older. In some of them, he's a kid. Some of them, he's like a middle-aged adult. Like in mine, he's middle-aged. Some of them, he's like a man.
Wow.
So it's never creepy when you're reading it. It's creepy because you think like, ew, it's Peter Pan. It's Peter Pan. But it's like either his name is a little bit different or just the whole story is completely reimagined. Like my story has nothing to do with Peter Pan. It's just like maybe the bare bones of Peter Pan, but his name happens to be Benjamin Peter Green.
Wow.
Yeah. And then later he figures out, oh, I'm Peter Pan, but Peter Pan doesn't exist in his world. Like that fairy tale doesn't exist.
Wow.
He just happens to become the fairy tale.
That's incredible.
So it lives in a world of Peter Pan not existing. But I've loved Peter since I was little, and it's just a comfort character for me. Like I fell in love with the whole premise of Peter Pan, and it made me happy. So people always say, write what you know. So I kind of just took out everything of Peter Pan that I knew, erased it, and made it my own.
Right.
So I was like, oh, and I've read so many of them, and I was like, I want this to happen. I want Peter to be like this. I want his friend to be like this. I wish this happened. And my mom finally went, well, why don't you just write one instead of complaining about it every day? And I was like, no, nobody's going to read it. Nobody cares. And I was like, well, you know, I care. And I was like, my mom cares. So that's two people who care.
Yeah.
I know God cares.
Yeah.
Because he cares about everything. So I was like, that's three big people that care. So I was like, well, that's enough. And I had an idea and barely, but I was like, why not just do it? I have free time.
Yeah.
So I started it and, you know, I stopped. I gave up. I threw it away. I deleted it. I did. I didn't like it. I said, this is stupid. I wrote the prologue and the prologue was great. I was like, that's like one of the only chapters that didn't really change throughout the entire process, to where I forgot about it, went back and read it. And I was like, oh, that's pretty good. I was like, that's all right. 2 years later, I was like, I forgot that I wrote this.
Wow.
But yeah, it wasn't supposed to happen. And then I was like, you know, I'm going to write exactly what I want. And it happened. And I ended up loving it.
Wow.
So it's just not me not giving up.
Dude, so I'm blown away right now because there's so much to unpack here.
I know.
Because you're 24 years old. And before we even go a step further, you released also a poetry book. So how long ago? That wasn't more than a year ago, was it?
Yeah, that one actually was, I want to say that was 2021.
Oh, okay.
That was right after COVID really hit.
Yeah. So you're 24 and you've released 2 books.
Yeah.
And like you've done more in the last 3 years than the average adult.
Yeah, I don't sleep. I haven't slept in 3 years.
What's your day like?
My day, it's cool. I mean, my day, I've had a few jobs. I mean, I have trouble, not having something to do. So either I get a job or I work for my dad.
Yeah.
I'm a nanny for my sister, and which is fun. I get to play for a living, basically, because they're young and I love them. And that's pretty much like I either work for my dad, I work for the church, and I work for my sister. So that's kind of where my day goes. Or it was because I don't write during the day. I write at night.
Okay.
So I don't sleep. I'm a nocturnal person.
Oh, wow.
So I sleep in, and my dad got mad at me. So he made me get like odd jobs or regular jobs that I didn't keep for very long because I'm like, my brain is too occupied with something that I'm doing. I don't know if I have people say I have ADHD because I hyperfixate on stuff, but I'm like, sure, I'm just creative. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I was like, I can't not think about the project that I'm working on. So I was like, I used to bake. I mean, I was a baker for years. I went to pastry school and everything, but I was like, I almost like gave up my writing dream because I didn't want to go to school. And I went to culinary school because it was more hands-on.
Right.
And I don't admit that to people. I was like, that was a passion of mine because I kind of made it a passion of mine.
Right.
But I couldn't sit in school. So I thought I had to get a degree to write a book. So I was like, I guess that dream's not going anywhere.
Wow.
So I didn't want to go to school. And then I realized you could self-publish and you could write, and I could write at night. And I was like, well, maybe I can make that dream happen. And then I kind of wrote my poetry book and felt the waters a little bit. And then that's kind of where what I started doing. I would spend my day doing whatever I needed to do. And then at night, I would go in my little hobbit hole, and people never knew that I was writing a book until I was like, wrote a book. Here I am. Right. I wrote a book. But I couldn't even believe it. I was like, I wrote a book.
You're probably still sitting here today like this is real.
Well, the fact that people across the country are buying this.
Yeah.
And they're like, can't wait to read it. And I was like, why?
Does any of that scare you at all?
Yes.
Yeah, it would be scary.
It's scary. I love it. Yeah. I'm telling people you will love it. But then I'm like, what if you hate it? And I'm like, you're going to love it. And they're like, you lie.
It's not that great.
It's horrible.
But it's more than what people do.
Yeah.
Right? We have so many people who tell us or they talk about their dream, but they never, probably because they experience and they're stuck at where you were about to quit. Like, look at all I have to do to make this thing happen.
Yeah.
I don't think I want to go through that.
Oh, if I thought about the ending, I would have never done it. I mean, it's actually funny. That's not true because I knew what the ending was going to be, but I didn't know how to get there. Yes. It was the fact that that whole middle part had to happen.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part. The beginning was there. The end was there. I was like,
how do you connect the two?
Yeah. And that's the biggest part of the book. Yeah, you can have a stellar ending, but if you have a boring middle, never gets there. It's going to stop. People are going to stop reading it.
Yeah.
And that was the whole thing. I was like, if I don't know how to really believe in myself, then this book would have never happened. It was terrifying.
Yeah. Especially in that middle section.
The middle section sucked.
The middle section is tough.
It sucked.
It's tough.
Because I try to write every chapter as my favorite chapter. That was like my biggest piece of advice that I got. I think I saw it on Pinterest. I'm not going to lie. And I was like, that's great. And I was like, all right, cool. So everybody's like, well, just write, just spit write, rough draft it and come back to it. I was like, I can't. Yeah. I can't do it. It'd be like blind dating and then coming back and be like, what just happened?
And try to fix it.
And try to fix it. And I was like, then everything's going to get all disconnected and weird. I'm going to forget that I wrote something. I put my whole heart into there's 37 chapters.
Wow.
That's a lot of chapters.
Yeah.
And that's including the prologue and the epilogue. There's prologue and the epilogue. And I was like, if I don't put my heart into every single one of these, somebody's going to get to a chapter and be like, this is boring. I'll come back to it. And knowing if they're anything like me, they forget about the book and never come back to it. And they're like, they start a new one. And I'm like, I don't want that to happen. I want people to not be able to put it down.
Wow.
So that's how I kind of went in, like, because I'm a reader. So I went in like a reader.
Yeah.
What would I want?
Yeah.
It's the author to do for me.
I've heard that a lot.
Yeah.
When people talks about writing, they say, write like your favorite author or write like you like to read.
Yeah.
Write like how you read.
Yeah,
so
I tried.
Cool.
And if I don't answer your question, if I like go on a tangent, let me know.
This is a podcast.
Okay, great.
You can do whatever.
Oh, awesome. Because I get nervous during interviews of people. Like my dad will ask me a question, and I think I'll answer 50 other questions within the question, and then he'll be like, "I don't know what you said."
I'm the same thing.
Like, what'd you ask? He asked, like, I asked how your day was.
And they just look at you and like that answer.
They're like waiting for the question to be answered, and I'm like, "Did I answer it? No. But that was great. Whatever you did.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that context. Yeah. But I got to ask the question again.
Yeah.
What is your name?
What's your name? I talk a lot. I get excited. That's why I talk.
You're perfect for this.
Yay!
This is perfect. So when I write scripts. I haven't wrote a story, a fiction story like this. I wrote a series of stories when I was a kindergartner.
You did?
Yes. And my mom kept them. And I think I wrote like 3 or 4 books, and they were only like 12 pages each.
That's still a book. That's a lot for a kindergartner to write.
Yeah. And it was I don't know where I got this story from, but I made a world where it was 5 times the size of Earth, but it was 10 times more water. And you know how there's sci-fi and there's spaceships?
Yeah.
But in my story, everyone was in a ship, a boat that did the same maneuvers, but they did it underwater because this planet was and there's undiscoverable land.
Oh my God. You came up with this in kindergarten?
In kindergarten.
This is incredible.
And there were 7, there was a ship ran by 7 kids because they had to escape because their land was destroyed. And only the kids were able to survive.
I would read this right now. Oh my God.
And so it was called Shipwrecked.
Of course.
They didn't have a home. And there was a group of pirates looking for them. And so they had to maneuver in this world. And my
mom, a great kids show.
Yeah.
Like, this should be a show.
So my mom thought that this was ridiculous. Like, who came up with this?
Yeah.
And I was like, I did. And I've like 6 books, 6 different adventures. There was only like 12 pages. And my imagination was just wild.
Yeah.
But that was wild. And one day I got to see one of them, and I had little staples and stapled them together. And looking through the pages.
Did you illustrate them?
Yeah.
No way.
I illustrated, and I was like, "Yo, this is crazy." But it had me thinking like, I should probably do something with this. But I was super like, just my mind. So that's the last thing I wrote that was fiction based.
What did you didn't do anything with them?
No, I want to do a series. I think I want to do a series.
If you did even a kid series, that would make it in like the Junie B. Jones. You know, remember Junie B. Jones?
Yes.
Do you know what that is? Yeah. The Junie B. Jones, the Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Yes.
Those are middle school books.
Yeah.
Or even honestly, if you wanted to make them like up like to the, the high school, you could make that like I'm reading Percy Jackson right now because everybody got mad at me that I'd never read Percy Jackson.
I never read it either.
Okay. Yeah. I'd never even seen the movies.
Neither have I.
Okay, good. Yeah. I don't feel that
You're
bad.
not alone.
Good. Because I heard they were great.
Yeah.
I watched the movie. It's cool. It's all right. I bet the book is better. I'm reading the book right now and it's already better. The book's always better. I didn't know it was like middle school-esque, like what was popular in middle school. Yeah. I do remember the trailers on Disney Channel happening.
Yes.
But I didn't really care about it. But it's definitely not my book. That's like I'm reading it and I'm like, this is for children. And I'm oh, this is great. I loved it. It's refreshing. I really like it. But I was like, it could be like that.
Yeah. That's interesting. Because I remember, now that I think about it, I do remember looking, and I never watched the movie. I was in kindergarten, 1st grade, in that age grade. So maybe I wrote it in 1st grade. But a movie came in the theater, The Lord of the Flies. I never read it, and I never saw the movie.
I was thinking about that book today.
Yeah, it's a great book. I wrote it. I read it.
I was like, you wrote Lord of the Flies?
I read it when I was in high school.
Yeah.
But when I was a kid, I just saw the commercial. And I remember the commercial sparked my creativity. Like, wow, kids are stranded on the island.
Yep.
And my brain went from there.
That was the first, I think that was one of the books that made me fall in love with reading.
Really?
So I was like, there are books out there that aren't like, Diary of a Wimpy Kid and stuff like that. Because
Lord of the Flies was intense.
That was an intense, I mean, I read that in middle school.
Yeah. I was a freshman, I think.
Yeah, I read, somebody happened to give it to me because my English teacher knew how much I loved to read. And these books that were in like the textbooks that were like, read a like whatever during class. It was like our English class. And I was like, these are good. Yeah. But he was like, let me give you some books that you might like because you're more of an advanced reader. That was one of them.
Wow.
I was in 6th grade. And I started reading it and I'm like, this is what reading is supposed to be.
Wow.
I was like, that's why people hate reading. because they don't get, when they're young, they're forced to read these books that they don't want to read.
Yeah.
So they have a bad light on reading. When there's teachers like that, shout out to Mr. Mattis. He's like literally the best English teacher. I love him. He gave me all these books and I still have them.
Wow.
I don't think he knows that I still have them. He just would bring me books. He's like, read this one now. I'm like, do you want this back? He goes, no, you keep it.
Yeah.
I have them all in a box. And I found, not that I lost them, but I went into the garage. They're in the garage in this little spot. And I went and I found them all. And I was like, these are like, I want to, like, I always go back to the people who helped me out back in the day.
Yeah.
That is why I loved reading. So it's like, if I didn't love reading, would not have happened. I mean, I love to write, but I think reading it back, like all of those books helped me write that because I read all the classics.
Yeah.
My brother Sam gave me The Outsiders.
That was in there, but I was going to mention The Outsiders.
It's my favorite book.
Love The Outsiders. I was in middle school. So middle school is Outsiders for me. Lord of the Flies was like freshman year. And then I tried to get into some of the popular books at the time, and I just.
What was popular at that time?
I'm trying to think. It wasn't Twilight. It was right before that. There was the Hardy Boys was still pretty popular. The Hardy Boys and Encyclopedia Brown. Judy Blume was making a big comeback.
That one I know.
Though Nancy Drew was still
so the
popular. mystery.
Yeah.
So that was what was big, was the mystery.
My friend loved Nancy
fantasy.
Drew. Okay.
I'm pretty sure Percy Jackson was probably in that conversation, but in high school we fell off because they were, I'm reading Jason and the Argonauts, and I was like, it's not that great.
You gotta like. I've realized you gotta really search for your genre.
You do.
Like, I didn't love reading until, somebody gave me a book and I was like, I don't want to read this. But I started it and I was like, okay, there's other books out there that I might like. Like, it's like music. You got to find the music that you like the best.
Yeah.
And I appreciate all books, but you won't see me reading a biography. I love people. I don't care that much about that. I don't care. My dad is a biography reader. When he read this, he did not get it. It's fantasy. Wow. Yeah. He's never read a fantasy book in his life. Not once.
Wow.
My dad, he's in his 60s. He's reading this and he asked me if I was on drugs.
Wow.
He did. He took me in a room and he goes, I don't get it. And I was like, you don't get what? I was really concerned. I'm like, what don't you get? And he goes, your book. And I was like, my mom's standing there quiet. She's read it cover to cover. She goes, I'm like, what don't you get? He goes, why do the animals talk? I'm like, what do you mean?
He thinks you're on LSD.
Yeah.
Writing this.
He's like, it reminds me of the Beatles. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes,
Sgt. Pepper, 100%.
He was like, it reminds me of like, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds or something. He's like, why are the animals talking? I'm like, have you ever seen like Narnia? That's like a normal fantasy thing.
That was what was big.
That was okay. Yes.
Yeah. And the Indian in the Cupboard.
Oh, okay.
Those were the big.
Gotcha.
Things. Yes.
Love Narnia.
Yeah.
I mean, that was big even when I was in middle school. People knew what it was, but the movies had come out.
Yeah, the movies hadn't came out.
So nobody cared about the books anymore. They only cared about the movies.
Yeah, there was no concept of the movie.
Yeah. No, the movie was definitely huge, but my dad didn't understand it.
That's crazy.
Yeah. He still, when he read it, he basically just did this. And that was it. And then I was like, he doesn't know. And I think he kind of does, but there's a character in here named Chuck, and he runs the wellness home.
Oh, wow.
And it's called Brand New Life Wellness Home.
Wow.
It's the rehab that that Benjamin gets sent to, or that he has to go to. And I was like, so did you get to the part? And he goes, yeah. And I was like, no, you didn't get there. I'm like, did you see you? And he goes, I saw me in the book. I was like, not metaphorically, Dad. Did you see you in the book? It's literally you. I'm like, you're the only character in the book who has the description of the man that I know. Yeah. Nobody else is like, they might have the same name or whatever. There's little Easter eggs in here. But I was like, no, his name is Chuck. He wears a pinstripe jacket. He's a roundish Italian man who looks like he's in the mafia. And he runs Brand New Life Wellness Home. And like, he has speaking lines and everything. I'm like, if there was ever a movie, I'd want you to play him. And he goes, I don't think I got there. I was like, oh my God, you have to go read it. I'm like, go read chapter 5. I was like, it's right there. And he goes, okay. I still don't know if he ever did. He said he loves the book though.
That's amazing.
But yeah, so he doesn't know that.
That's funny.
It's a great part.
Yeah.
Chuck is good.
So I know that probably deep down inside your mind, you have other stories.
Oh yeah.
Are there stories? Do you put yourself in any of them?
Yes, I do. Yeah. This one I did.
So you did put yourself in this.
I always tell people, and it's not a secret. So the character, there's a few main characters in this book. There's a girl character, the main one, other than the one that you'll meet toward later. Her name's Mia. Mia. I wanted to name her Mia, but that would be weird considering that's the name on the cover of the book, and I wrote it. So I didn't want people to think of me as this character, because this was Mia is me kind of like back when I was going through a lot. So I went through anorexia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I'm okay to talk about it now because, you know, I'm almost fully there. I mean, I still have tendencies here and there. I mean, it's hard to recover from that. So anybody going through that, let me know. I can help you out. But she has anorexia, and Peter ends up meeting her in the rehabilitation center, because this rehab is for anybody with an addiction. It's like just he calls it a circus house. He calls it I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss on here.
Yes.
He calls it a shit show. So, and that's basically what it is.
Yeah.
And he goes there, and there's alcoholics, there's drug addicts, there's sex addicts.
Wow.
There's everything. And she's anorexic. So she's addicted to not eating.
Wow.
So it's whatever. Chuck basically explains it, whatever your addiction, we're all here to help you out. And he's like, oh, great. Can't wait. He's like, now it's circus. I'm a part of it. But Mia has anorexia and like a really, really bad rare case of Asperger's, where she says everything that she thinks. So she's looking at Peter and she'll be like, you look like you're dead, because he's on drugs. And he's like, okay, cool. And I love her character. But I mean, obviously there's certain things about her that I didn't necessarily have, but the way she thinks and her insecurities and the anorexia and the way she looks at people, I'm like, I basically put all of my old self into her.
Wow. And
it became this character that, it's funny because I joke with my mom. I'm like, nobody really likes this character that much because they think she's boring. She's not boring. She's just real.
Yes.
And I told my mom, I was like, it's all right. Nobody likes me either. And she's like, Mia, that's horrible. Mia was my favorite character. And I was like, that makes sense because you're my mom.
Mom sees
and I was like, that means I did a great job. I kind of like was laughing, and I was like, everybody likes these other characters because they're bright and bubbly and funny. And Mia is just insecure, kind of takes up, Zach my boyfriend said that she takes up space. And I was like, that's what everybody said about me.
Wow.
And that's what everybody says about her in the book. So I was like, it's perfect. Wow. That's exactly the vision I had for Mia. She wasn't really supposed to be your favorite character.
Right.
She was supposed to have that opinion. Wow. And I was like, that's crazy.
Isn't it nuts? Because I know in Superficially Deep, there's a character that's me. And when I hear people talk to me about the show, they'll mention that character, and I'm like, man, my heart breaks for this guy, man.
I know.
And then I'm like, wow. And it's almost therapeutic.
Yes.
Because you're like, it's first of all, it's a pat on the back to yourself. Like, okay, I gave justice to this character.
Yes.
But the other side of it is like, it validates the things that you were going through in that time when you put it on paper and people read it and they're like, man, this has got to be hard that he's trying to win this person's affection.
It's like,
and I get it. And I'm like,
yeah.
And it's therapeutic for us because it's almost like
we're heard.
Yeah, we're heard.
We're heard and understood. Exactly, and that's like the whole thing when you read the book too, because it's all in the first person. So it's all the characters' inner monologues. And it's different perspectives, which is one of my favorite things in books. I don't like third person books where the author is telling you that the characters did something.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I can't listen to people for a really long amount of time because my brain will go somewhere. I'll be like squirrel. So I have to, the character has to be telling me. Yeah. Like Peter's like, it takes place like it's present tense too. So it's like happening right now. So I'm reading it, and that makes me become immersed in the story. When he's like, for instance, if it's, I saw like I'm with two guys who are about in their early 20s or something like that.
Yeah.
He's with them right now in the story. Yeah. It's not like so Peter was with two guys that were in their early 20s, and it's like Okay.
Right.
That's great. Good.
Yeah.
I'm glad the author knows something I
now
don't.
Me as a reader now have to fill holes.
Yeah, I have to.
I
yes,
feel like that.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm like, I have to do too much work.
Yeah.
The fact that Peter is telling me right now, this is where he's at. I'm like,
I don't have to fill holes.
No,
he's telling me.
He's telling me exactly what's happening. He's telling me exactly how he's feeling.
Yeah.
And it's cool because I know something now the characters don't know. Peter's basically letting me in on secrets. Yeah. He's like, I hate this person. I want to punch him in the face. He has one of those faces that I want to punch. That guy doesn't know that.
Yeah.
But I do.
Yeah.
And I'm laughing with Peter. He.
Yeah.
He wants to punch this guy in the face.
Wow.
But that guy, everything's normal and nobody else around him knows that.
Yes.
So I just think it's fun in the third person. I mean, the first person. I don't know why I told you that. I forgot. See, that's what I do. I'm like, there was a reason why I told you the first person
because I was talking about how therapeutic the stories were and you responded.
Oh, yes. So when Peter and Maya are talking, or Phineas, who's another character, and Maya or whatever are talking, the fact that Peter starts to feel the same way that we do, we're like, oh, I feel for that. Yeah. I understand this. I get that. I'm like, that's kind of how I wished people would act toward me back in the day.
Yes.
I'm like, Peter is getting what I wish other people got. And I'm like, it kind of makes me feel good because it's almost like a cheat sheet for people. Like, hey, if somebody says this to you or feels this way, this is how Peter reacted. This is probably how you should react.
This is a great response.
So it's kind of like a learning experience as well. So yeah, I like it. It's fun.
One of the things I love about you and your whole family is that you guys are very real and you are unapologetically real. And I think being Christian in general, that's something that's missing.
Yeah.
The ability to be real. I'm like, this is who I am. This is what I feel. This is how I think, and deal with it.
Yeah.
Not even deal with it. Just if you don't like it, let me be.
That's it. Yeah.
You know? And so I really appreciate the realness. And I think that's why I'm always like down for whatever. Like either one of you guys call, hey, you want to do this? Yeah, I'm down.
Yeah. Because you know it's going to be real.
Yeah, it's going to be real. And I know that because of that, I feel safe.
Yeah.
That I can be real.
Yes.
How does that? But with that being said, sometimes we get pushback for being quote unquote too real, which I don't think that's a thing. But people, yeah, you know, you're too real, or because I just know how. I know you well enough to know that you don't pull punches. So I know the book is not going to hold any punches.
No.
Have you gotten pushback from that? And do people give you pushback? I always wondered this. Do people give you pushback for that anyways, before, like outside of the book? And how do you deal with that?
Yeah. I mean, the book has a lot of language in it. It has a lot of drugs, alcohol, sex. Yeah. I knew how to appeal to the audience.
Yes.
And sometimes when you're an author, you can't hold back. You have to, because people will come at you and say, I want it. I wish this had happened. And I wish this had happened. And I was like, I know what's popular. I know what people are going to like. I know what's going to gravitate a certain audience or a wide variety of audience. I didn't appeal to one audience. I'm like, you like dark fantasy. This is only for you. This is a book for everyone. Okay. You hate fantasy. You'll love it because it takes place in modern times. Then the fantasy comes in. You hate fantasy. You hate fiction books. That's all right. There's a lot of realness in the book. But because of all the language and everything like that, I mean, my family owns a church.
Yeah.
There's a lot of old fashioned people who go there. And I am one of the faces of said church.
Yes.
But I had to explain, look, people didn't get mad, but they look at me like they're a little disappointed. My dad gets confused because he's like, you're a Christian, right? And I'm like, not anything on my dad. He cusses every once in a while. He's the most real guy that I know.
Yes, he is.
But he's like, is this the image for somebody who teaches the kids at the church? He's like, the kids can't read this book. Is that okay with you? Is this the image that you want to portray? And I said, here's the thing. Because he interviewed me too. So he had to ask me these questions as well, regardless if he's okay with the book or not, which he did like it. He was just surprised. He goes, is all of these drugs and thoughts and language in your heart, or should we separate the author from the story?
Yes.
And I said, here's the thing. People don't do that enough. They don't separate the author from the story, because maybe Peter cusses like a sailor. Maybe I cuss every once in a while too.
Right.
But I don't it doesn't mean that oh, I'm a drug addict and I need my story to be heard, or I'm a this and that and I need my story to be heard.
This is not a cry for help.
Exactly. Yeah. The poetry book at that time is a little more real because that is my book. That is my heart. It's poetry.
Yes.
So at the time when people read it and were like, are you okay? Yeah. It was a little bit more valid. Because I could be like, hey, these poems were written a while ago. Some of them are present. The happy ones are present. I could explain that more.
Yes.
This book specifically, I mean, yeah, I got a lot of crack back on it from saying like, hey, I thought you know, are you on drugs, basically?
Yeah.
And I said, look, there's so much happening right now in the world, and people don't want, I mean, as much as people like fantasy and stuff, people want realness now, and they want to hear what's real.
They do.
And they want to hear something that helps them relate.
Yeah.
Because a lot of fantasy you can't relate to anymore, and people want to dive into that fantasy world. But then they come out of it and they get depressed because it's not real.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
So I try to write a book that implied both. To where it's so fiction, yes, and so fantastical or whatever, yes, but it's also real. So people still have hope that realness is out there. So people aren't just like, you know, Lucy in the sky with diamonds every day.
Yeah.
But I do get a lot of people saying, okay, so this has a lot of language in it. Are you okay with that? I'm like, yeah, because I hear it around me every day. Yeah. That's the most real thing ever. If I wrote a book that just said, oh, you freaking jerk.
Yeah.
I can't believe you did that. Can't believe you did that. You
darn it.
Darn heck you, bah. Yeah. And I was like, that's what I used to write when I was little. And I would read it and I'm cackling, laughing. I found all my old fan fiction.
Because you know what you want to say.
Yes. I'm like, and then I wrote like, because I love Big Time Rush, right? Okay. Big Time Rush is my favorite boy band. Forever. I just bought tickets to see them. I gave them to Charlie for his birthday.
That's awesome.
Every year, now it's a tradition. Charlie and I go. I used to go with my sister, but now she has 3 kids. And Charlie and I go.
Wasn't there a picture you were on stage with them?
Twice. Oh, I got death threats for that. Oh, yeah.
I remember that.
Yes. And that was, I've loved them my whole life, even after all that. Yeah. It's like, I love it. And they're the nicest people. I love them so much. I used to write fan fiction about them. Because I loved Kendall from Big Time Rush. He's married now. God bless his sad. No, I'm kidding. You know, he's married with a child. I'm so excited for him. Just cry. No, but I used to write fan fiction about them. And I was pretty well up there in the fan fiction field when I was 10.
Wow.
But I was not allowed. I couldn't cuss. Right. So it would be like Kendall fell on the stairs and he cussed. He felt bad that he said it, but he had to say it anyway because he didn't know what else to say. And I'm like, I'm reading this and I'm like, aw. I was like, he felt really bad. Yeah. I was like, now I'm like, fuck, she shut, fuck. And my dad's like, I opened the book. There's like 5 F-bombs on one page. And I'm like, it's kind of how it is now.
Yeah.
And I just try to tell people it's just the most real possible.
Yeah.
There's drug addicts. There's cussing.
Yes.
There's drugs. There's sex. There's this. There's that. And if you don't read about it, I mean, there's a book out right now. One of my favorite books. It's called Haunting Adeline. It's by H.J. Carlton or something H. Carlton. You'll find it on Amazon. It's very, very popular. And I loved the book. She's a self-published author too.
Wow.
She wrote this book, but the main thing people got about it was that it was gross and offensive and creepy. And I was like, well, I got to read it because it's popular and everybody seems to think that the guy in it's super broody and hot. So let's read it. Okay. So let's read it. I'm reading this book. And yes, that is true. The guy was super crazy, hot, whatever. He is a book character, morally gray book character, which is a really popular thing.
Yeah.
But the story that everybody really thought was super offensive was about women getting sex trafficked.
Wow.
And him being like, obviously he's got his own issues, this character, else there'd be no story. But he's a guy who goes undercover and tries to save these women. He's also a stalker, which makes it weird.
Wow.
Makes the book weird. But the fact that he's going around and trying to save these women from being, the whole storyline is him being the stalker. But the underlying real point of the story really dives in and gives you details about what happens when women and men get sex trafficked.
Wow.
And he works in with them. He poses as a guy who sex traffics women, but he's actually trying to save them.
Wow.
And all of the things that happen within the book are really vivid and they give you all the details. Like, I don't know if this woman went through that. I don't know enough about her to know that, or if she knows people who did, but people get mad at her and disgusted by her for doing so much detail. But I'm like, this is really what's happening.
Yeah.
And people hate that. They hate reading about it. They just want a story that's just fiction about this stalker dude that's going
to the pretty stuff.
I know.
Yeah.
And it's like, the story was so beautiful because he saves these women, and this girl that he's stalking ends up getting trapped in that sex trafficking, and she gets sex trafficked by this other guy that works for him.
Wow.
And he's the top dog, but nobody knows it. He has an alter ego.
Wow.
I'm going to just give spoilers. Spoilers. If you go read the book, it's great.
Yeah, still read it.
But it's like the second book really, like, she's getting sex trafficked now. And the things that happens to her are horrible. They're disgusting. But it's happening.
It's happening.
And if you're not strong enough to know that, don't read it.
Wow.
But I mean, like, I'm reading this and I'm like, I don't feel bad for using a few shits and fucks every once in a while.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, this is almost like a pregame for those books.
Yeah.
People hate it. They're like, I couldn't read it. I was disgusted. I had to put it down. I'm like, that's because it's real.
Yeah.
And people know that in their, like, this spirit that they know that it's real. And I don't care now, circling back, about the crackback that I get from these books, because it's real.
Yeah.
That's the biggest word that there is. It's all real.
Yeah. We were, Rice and I was talking before you got here. We're hosting we're hosting a film festival in August. So if you want to get involved in that.
Hell yeah.
But we were talking about the type of films that we're going to accept. And I said, well, let everybody submit, and then we'll vet after that. And, you know, because of this place, there's some people who were like, well, we can't have cussing in their films. And I'm like, well, let's be rational.
Yeah.
Because I already know one film is on its way. It's a mockumentary, but it's not meant to be funny. It's meant to be serious about a family being torn apart because of drugs. I already know there's going to be language in that film.
There has to be.
Has to be.
Almost.
Yeah,
you know?
You can't tell that story without language. And I was like, they can't sugarcoat it.
No.
I don't want them to.
No.
I want them to tell the story because it's based off of their actual experience.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I'm like, you got to tell this story. Like,
it won't be powerful with, like, you can tell then if you're cutting corners a little.
Yeah. And I hate it when I watch a movie that I really like and they put it on, like, TV and they're cutting out stuff. I'm like, why put the movie out here?
Yeah.
Why even do this? So I get that. Do you think, and this is my thought, do you think that people, I always feel like when people give me pushback, because they do this to my music. So one of my records, not the one that came out last year, but the one before that one, it's called Hope. And it's probably my favorite project. And I remember writing a song and was like, that's a cool song, because Christian rap, so that's a cool song.
Yeah.
And I remember being in bed and thinking about that song. That was a good song. Yeah, it was good. And I felt in my heart like it's not a good song because you held back, because you're always thinking somebody's going to be offended by what you really want to say.
Yep.
And I was like, you know, I'm going to go back in there and I'm going to re-record and I'm going to say what I want to say.
Yes.
And it was a little bit more street. Right?
Yeah.
And I get it all the time. When people hear my music, that I always get are you still Christian?
Yeah.
I said, yeah, I'm totally a Christian. This is just hip hop, in my opinion, is a very aggressive language.
Sure.
You know,
I love
very
that.
aggressive.
Yeah.
And I understand if you want to be the cute poppy one for youth groups, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I haven't been to a youth group.
They're like, different now.
Yeah, they're clear.
Yeah.
But I haven't been to one. I haven't been a youth pastor in almost 20 years. So I haven't been to a youth group in 25 years. So there's adults that are going through some real madness and they want a piece of. If
you start cutting corners, they're never going to know how to really get through that stuff. And that's why I didn't cut corners with this book, because I mean, these characters, of course it starts out like in drug rehabs and everything like that, but like they come, like, not to spoil anything, but there's hope still.
Yes.
They come through all of these things and they start to get clean, and it gets a little bit cleaner toward the middle end of the book. It's not, there's going to be more.
Yeah.
There's going to be two more.
Uh-huh.
So it's like, obviously they don't end perfect.
Right.
But like, it's not fully dark.
Yes.
It's a dark fantasy because that's just the genre as a whole. But if I didn't be real and cut those corners, and those people, they make fun of each other. It's horrible. They like make fun of their, like, one of them's an alcoholic, one of them's a anorexic, one of them's a drug addict. They will make fun of each other.
Yes.
If anybody said that to me, I'd punch them in the face. Like, there's this one specific line where so Peter guards that journal like his life.
Yeah.
Maya goes to take it and he goes, touch it, you gain 30 pounds. And it was, I said, when I was writing that, I couldn't believe I wrote it. Because I was like, if someone ever said that to me, they would die
Really?
immediately. Back in the day. Right now, if somebody said that to me, I'd be like, oh, whoa, that hurt.
That's aggressive.
That's aggressive.
Yeah.
But he's such an asshole.
Yeah.
But it's real, because if there are assholes out there, they will say stuff like that.
Absolutely.
And they're mean. Absolutely. And she's mean right back. And it's just this, I would watch this in a movie. I'd be like, this is incredible. Yeah. And it's a book. Obviously, it's gonna, like, I sit there, but I thought of that joke. And I'm like, if I like didn't have enough realness in me to be like, this is happening. This is happening out there. People are making fun of each other's illnesses, no matter what the cost.
Yes.
And some people use humor as their coping mechanism.
Yes.
And I was like, if you get offended really easily, there's a trigger warning at the beginning of this book. And the end of the trigger warning, it's, note that the characters in this book will handle some of these situations with humor, as the author would as her coping mechanism. So, ... don't come for me. I said, your mental health comes first. Reader's discretion is advised. Because people will get mad if all of a sudden a line comes in like that. Or Phineas calls Maya a certain name.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Or he calls Peter this or that. And people read that and they're like, I can't believe you're disrespecting people with anorexia. And it's like,
this is a battle that you face.
I know. And I had it. And maybe drugs isn't a battle that I faced. But like, not only did I have family who did that, yes, but I gave them a warning.
Yeah.
I was like, look, this is going to happen. And that's how I use it as mine. So that's what I put into the characters. I created these characters.
Wow.
They're going to use humor to cope with the hurt that they're dealing with.
Wow.
And it's just like, it's a really interesting thing that people, they get offended really easily nowadays.
They do. And, man, I wonder if that has anything to do, because I feel like for me, vulnerability is like a superpower.
Yeah.
If you could be vulnerable with people and you can be real.
It's a blessing and a curse.
It is.
For sure.
It really is, especially with the wrong people, if you're around the wrong people. So I have to be cautious. So most of my time I'm silent because I don't know.
Yeah.
But I wonder if the people who are always offended by that, two things. I wonder if they're offended because they have the inability to be vulnerable themselves, like they won't do it, or is it a reflection of who they want to be?
Yeah.
How they want to express themselves.
So so say it one more time.
So I feel like people who get offended either have the
inability. People who get offended.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, people who get offended by that either know that it's the truth.
Yeah.
People get offended by the truth all the time.
Absolutely.
And they will say that, oh no, blah, 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 blah. And then they know in their heart that it's true. It happens every day in every way.
Yeah.
Otherwise, some people are just, some people in the reality are just like that, which is sad. They just get offended.
Yeah.
But it could be an underlying thing of like, yeah, that's how they want to be. And they wish they could express that. I mean, I hate always going back to the book. That's how Peter is in the book. He's gone through so much. And when he wants to be open, you read his inner monologue and he's like, and everybody, it's really sad too. People are saying that Peter is such a well-rounded character that they can relate to. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I love him.
Yeah.
I'm in love with Peter. I love him so much. I wrote this character so people would love him and relate to him. But the more people that relate to him, I'm like, I want to give you a hug. Because he wants to be vulnerable so bad. But we learn in his inner monologue that he's like, maybe it's just not in my nature. I can't empathize with people and tell them what I need to tell them. Like, I'm proud of you. I'm there for you, blah, blah, blah. But he just sits there like, okay. He just nods. Or he wants to be vulnerable and say, this is what happened in my past. This is what happened to me. I'm there for you. I feel for you. And he can't.
No.
And I'm like, some people are just like that. They know and they're there for you, but they can't express it. Maybe because they don't want to. They just like, they think it's a waste of time or they don't trust people. Peter's whole problem is that he can't trust anybody. It says that right off the bat. He's like, no, I had that brooding epiphany when I was younger. I can't trust people. And I'm like, that's a huge problem people have. They don't trust people. I mean, I had that like throughout my whole, I don't want to say young life because I am, but like all my teen years, I hardly trusted anybody. So I stuck to my poetry book. I wrote in my journal. That's a lot like Peter, really. He wrote in his journal for everything.
Yeah.
But I mean, I just stopped trusting people. And it took me a lot to gain that trust back because you got to trust God. But, you don't have to trust everybody.
Yeah.
But, you know, being vulnerable can be a power for sure. That's how you write.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, man.
It's heavy.
It's heavy.
It's heavy.
Yeah. And you're still only 24.
Yeah.
Like the revelation of not just writing a phenomenal book, but being expressive in that book, being yourself, knowing what's going to work, and then going through the process to publish it yourself.
Dude.
Like, what was that like?
Okay. So, shake it off.
Yeah.
This was hard. And I won't even say that it was like, oh, yeah, I published a book. But I had to edit this. I did everything not because I'm prideful, but because I didn't want to pay anybody to do it. Because I'm trying to make money by selling this book.
Yes.
And I didn't want to, I'm the type of person that doesn't want to bother people. So I'm like, well, I know how to do it. I'll do it.
Yeah.
So I finished the book, right? I created this cover.
Yes.
And I could have paid somebody to do the blurb because I can't summarize. It's been a problem of mine since kindergarten. That was the last thing I did. Everybody's like, what's the book about? I'm like, I know.
Right.
Can't tell you. Don't know. Without giving you the whole thing.
Everything. Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know. So really had to pray for that one. I read a book on how to write a book blurb.
Did you really?
I did. That was hard. It was really hard. I remember getting my hair done, reading my Kindle about how to write a synopsis.
Wow.
I still didn't know how to do it after the book. God really helped me with that one. But I did all of this. I came up with these fonts. It's like the littlest minute details.
Yes.
I spent hours changing the colors.
Wow.
I did all these little details. This was a blank canvas. Wow. I got the brown leather. I got that. Had to cut it out. Did all this design alone with God. Thank God. Or else I would be dead. Yeah. But so I had to do all of these things. And I was like, okay, what do I want to be in the cover? What do I want to be here? I did a whole playlist for the book.
No way.
A chapter by chapter playlist. So every chapter has its own song.
Songs like soundtrack.
Yep.
And the QR codes are like to us like a playlist?
Yep. It takes you right to Spotify. Dude, I went big for this one.
I'm blown away by this.
There's a vibe playlist. So it's every song that I wanted to put for the 37, but didn't make it as the song. So it's every song possible. So it just keeps evolving. I love that it's my hype playlist, but it reminds me of the book or it reminds me of a character in the book. So it's called I Prefer the Vibes. So it's just the vibe.
That's amazing.
Now the chapter by chapter is prologue through epilogue. Every chapter has one song. That was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. That was harder than writing the book. I didn't really realize I didn't know a lot of songs. I wanted to use the same author for everything.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. So I did that. And then I went and I finished it. And I was like, I got to edit this now. I had to print out the whole book. I put it in a binder. And every typo, every plot hole, every this, every that. I've read this book and listened to it probably 50 times. And I love it, which is great. The fact that I've read it that many times and don't hate it. So that's good.
Man.
And then, after I done editing it, I had to make sure it made sense. So I had other people read it.
Yeah.
And, I sent it to random people. I sent it to my family. I sent it to people who hate fiction, hate fantasy. And I had to make them understand the book and make sure it made sense and make sure there was no typos. And I had to, put it into the website, make sure the formatting was right, format it correctly. Yeah. That was a...
KDP sucks at that.
Yeah.
That's the worst.
But they don't give you the No. Sorry, KDP, I love you.
No.
They don't give you the guidelines.
No.
They say, this is what we need, as if I know what it means.
Yes. And then when you do it and it's not right, you look at it and they give you that printout.
Yes.
And you're like, no.
That's not what I want. And I would go and fix it 45 times.
Yes.
I'd have to delete it, re-upload it, wait.
I thought I was doing something wrong because that's exactly what I had to go
through. I
had to go through this same.
Do you know how many times? And also, this too, I uploaded it thinking that it was the final draft.
Yes.
And I had to delete it, fix it, and re-upload it. Not only, I have 3 different formattings I had to do. I had to do it on hardcover, which is going to be released in the next few days.
So you're doing this in hardcover too?
I have it. I think I have it with me. It's in the other room though.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Wow.
I think I brought it. If not, just take my word for it. It's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life. And everybody keeps asking me for it. So I was like, I don't do it. But that took forever to get here from Amazon. It took a month for the proof to get here.
For the proof?
For the proof. It was like, order author proof. I'm like, yeah. It's like, we'll be here in 6 weeks. I was like, well. So that's why that one's being released now, like soon. But it's perfect. So I'll release it. Nobody knows it, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And then I had to do the hardcover formatting, which is completely different. Paperback and Kindle. Yeah, that Kindle formatting.
Hate the Kindle.
I wanted to shoot myself in the foot.
I thought, because my book, I launched it a while ago. So maybe over 7 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So in my mind, I kept thinking it's gonna have to get better than this. It doesn't sound like it is.
I hope so. Because I was gonna say it's probably worse back then, but the Kindle. So the thing with, I thought, it would become more advanced. I remember when the Kindle was a huge thing, or the Nook and everything like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so back in the day, it was super plain, simple. Because I know that because I got an old Kindle.
Yes.
And used it.
Yeah.
And it was very basic. And then the new stuff started coming out, the Paperwhite, Scribe, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, I'm still going to use my old Kindle. There's nothing wrong with it. But then I went to make a Kindle book. You can't use the same fonts that are in the book, the paperback. So I'm like and the Kindle is the most popular one people are buying right now. And I was like, I love that. That's great. I'm glad you're reading it so much. But there's journal entries in there from Peter, and they're all different. They're a different font to not only make sure that you know that it's a journal entry. I mean, on the Kindle, it's distinguished a different way.
Yeah.
Because I had to be creative. I had to be creative, darn.
Yeah.
But in this one, the font, and I'll show you, the font is completely different.
Yes. Yeah, I noticed.
Yeah. So.
Oh yeah, I see that. Because it's more handwriting.
Yeah. And the font is different. So in the Kindle version, it's just it's just lowercase and uppercase.
Oh.
It just looks like your font got all messed up.
Yeah.
But in this, it's distinguishable. It looks like a journal entry. And even from up to here, the chapters are just Times New Roman.
Yes.
All the fun fonts aren't there.
Yeah.
And yeah, big deal. But it was art. Yeah. I worked a lot. I took a lot of time.
It's part of the creativity process to get the font you want.
So that didn't happen. I thought it would be a little bit more exciting about that, but I had to work on that too. Yeah. It was just a lot of little tiny details that I didn't have to do, but I did. And then I had to market it. So I had to do all this by myself. Yeah. And I loved it.
Yeah.
I could have sent it to publishers, but I wanted people to read the story, because now people are self-publishing, and the authors, the publishers are finding them.
Yes.
And giving them deals on movies and books and all of that. And I'm like, sign me up. Yeah. Totally. Because it's a lot. It's a lot of work.
I gotta tell you, how much time do I have? Oh man, it's one of my longest podcasts.
Really?
Yeah, it's great. So I'm gonna share this because this is
cool.
This is important.
I was like, I didn't know how much time we had, so I just kept talking.
Yeah. Oh, it's not that bad, but okay. But
he's like, I gotta go. He's like, I have midnight.
To do, man. But I've been. I'm in a moment right now. You caught me in a moment. Having this conversation with you and seeing you go through and hearing the process of creating this book and what you had to go through, knowing a couple years ago you had another book.
Yeah.
Knowing that where you are at just in your life. And I'm just sitting here thinking, because I've been going through some mental battles myself, and I've been having this place where I'm like, okay, I've had people tell me, dude, you got a lot in your head, right? I don't know if God's telling you all this stuff or you're just dreaming. You have a lot of stories in your head. You have a lot of projects that you're working on. And sometimes I think, I don't know if you've ever had this thought where you're like, man, I might be too much for people. I might be too much
every day. Are you kidding? Yeah.
And so when I see this, I'm sitting here thinking, with God, nothing is impossible. Clearly, obviously.
Yeah.
And you sound like me when you were talking about marketing.
Yeah.
Because my one of the artists on my label, I produced his album, and I told myself, we can't just release this thing. We have to market this.
Yeah.
Thing. And I was like you. I know anything about marketing.
Nope.
I got a little book about marketing. I was watching YouTube videos on marketing. And I was like, oh, okay, 21-day plan. Okay, do this on day 3. So I did it and I followed it to a T. And his album came out and it charted number 3 on iTunes. And it only got beat out by a couple of Christian bands that I was like, yeah, we're not going to beat, what was it, Kane? I was like, yeah, we're not going to beat Kane's album. So
wow, that's number 3.
But number 3 on the Christian charts. And I was like,
that's huge.
It was huge. And I was like, man, all it took was just
effort.
Yeah, it wasn't even a lot of effort. It was just like focused effort.
Yeah.
And I noticed that to make this happen, you had to take a bite every day.
Yes.
You had to take a step forward, maybe a step back a couple of times.
Yeah.
But you just had to do something every day.
I had to be uncomfortable too. You know?
That's big.
It's huge. And I hate that because I live in uncomfortability. So to make myself uncomfortable, even more uncomfortable than I already am.
Yeah.
Like I have, believe it or not, I deal with social anxiety. It's crazy.
Wow.
I'm just a good actor.
Yeah.
So it's like a win-win situation, I guess. But it's like, I hate, like I said before, I hate asking people for help. And I hate marketing myself because I'm like, people don't care. People don't like me enough to even care about this book.
I think about that all the time.
Yeah. So I'm like, they're not going to read it. They're not going to care about it. And they're not going to share it. I do that with my own family. I'm like, you guys don't care. And they're like, shut up.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, we do. And I'm like, no, you don't. And it's like, I just don't think people care enough. I'm like, nobody thinks this is a big deal. Nobody's going to come to the book launch. Nobody cares.
Wow.
And I'm like, I had to get away from that. I had to really pray about it. And I'm like, God, help me come up with an idea to market myself and make myself happy about it. Because I don't want to just be like, here's my book. You should buy it. Like, what can I do? Like, and use my talents. And he helped me with all of the promos that you see. I edited all of those by myself. It was so much fun. And I loved doing it. And I put them out there. And he's like, and I hated doing this. But it was, you got to spend a little bit too to get a little bit.
Yes.
And you can promote your videos on TikTok and promote your videos on Instagram. And I was like, if I spend a little bit of money to get it out there, that's how I get my followers.
Yeah.
It's not like, I hate when people are like, I paid for my followers. But it's like,
it's an investment at that
I had to invest if I was a nobody for a minute. I was like, and then one day I won't have to do that anymore. But the sales that I'm getting now are just from the effort and the time and, and the everything that I did in order to market my book. I made the flyers. I went out. I sent them to everybody in my contact list, even if I don't talk to them anymore. I'm like, remember me? You should come. And it's like, they might. And it's all it's a game.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of prayer though. There was a lot of things I had to do to pray and tell myself, you know what? You got to pretend that you're a celebrity. When I was doing the book launch, I pretended that I was getting ready for the Oscars.
Yeah.
I was like, people might not show up. People might not care. But if one person comes and it's decorated beautifully.
Oh, that's
I'm like, nobody really cares that how many people are there. They just care. They came to see you.
Yeah.
So it's like, they're not really looking at it as much as I am. Like, I'm not going to lie. After the book launch, I cried a little bit because I was like, I got hundreds of text messages and messages of people who are coming. They didn't come.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I was disappointed. I wanted it to, and it was full, but it was going to be more full. And I spent so much time getting ready for that event. Like I made hundreds of cookies and they're all themed because I'm a baker. So I was like, let me do that. And they're all themed for the characters. I got the decorations. I got the food and they were all punny food. I paid somebody to make the food. I got books. I got raffle baskets, merch, everything to get ready for this event.
Yeah.
I was like, hundreds of people are going to come. They already told me. So I wasn't like, oh, dream big, 100 people or might come. They were coming.
Yeah.
They didn't come. And I'm like, can't trust people.
No.
But you can trust God because he saw how much effort I put into that. And he goes, if you put that much effort into something that, you treated like the Oscars, I know he's got big plans for me later.
Yes.
And those people are going to, I'm still going to invite them. I still love them.
Yeah.
But it's better to put your trust in God than in man.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing I learned. And God sees that. He sees my heart. I forgive those people. It's not a big deal. But I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean that one person shows up. Not one person didn't show up, but say they did. One person showed up.
Yeah.
My friend who I met, she's an author as well. And she came 2 hours away, drove all the way by herself to come meet me She's my age, and she's an aspiring author too. And she goes, you know what? I was talking to her about it, and she said, these people, regardless of how many people are here, all came for you. If I was the only one who showed up, you're still an author.
Yeah.
She's like, one person who bought your book, you're an author.
Yeah.
I was like, you're right. So it is what it is.
I'm floored. And I'm sorry I didn't make it.
Hey, you know what? You're one of those people. No.
I had every intention to be there.
I laughed so hard when Charlie got that text message. Hey, what time does it start? I'm like, started about 7 hours ago.
Yeah, it's over. I was so upset.
But I'm here, so that's cool.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here.
You made up for it.
I did. And you made.
Okay. There'll be more.
In my head, I was like, well, she's coming next week.
I know, and there'll be more signings too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because people are already asking me, when's the next one? And I'm like, you want to come see me again? Cool. Yeah. All right.
Anytime. Yeah. You give me an opportunity to celebrate me?
Yes. All right.
Good. Nah. That's awesome, man. So listen, I prefer Peter as the title. It's available. Wait, you have a lot of merch too.
Yes, I do.
Where can they get that?
So the merch is going to be available on my website very soon.
Okay.
I still have to take like the good pictures of it. I'm wearing it.
Yep.
I thought I was wearing a hat. I have a hat. I have hats, sweatshirts, hoodies.
Like trucker hats?
Yeah.
Nice.
And they say it's Benjamin, but I prefer Peter. And it's a line in the book. And so cool. I wish I wore the hat. I wore a beanie instead. But I got the sweatshirts. I got the pens.
Yes.
Got the stickers.
Yes.
They're super cool. And that will be available on it's author miabattaglia.com. It's not on there yet, but it will be.
Okay.
The merch is coming out.
Okay. And then do you prefer the TikTok purchase or do you prefer
Peter?
Oh yeah.
Sorry. That was stupid.
Do you have a preference on where they buy your book at?
No, either one. I mean, TikTok is great, but not everybody has TikTok. So if you buy it on TikTok, I'll probably make the same amount regardless.
Okay.
Amazon's great. Although buying it on Amazon is great because it gets me up in the list.
Oh, that's right.
So right now I'm in the 700s, which is huge.
You're in the 700s?
700s is pretty big.
Yeah, I looked at it when I ordered it and I was like, look at, they're ranked. And I was like, she's ranked in here.
I was ranked.
And I was like, yo, and I went to mine. I was like, am I ranked?
I went to my poetry book and saw my rank and then I immediately exited.
I did when I looked at mine. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I didn't know there were rankings.
Neither did I.
And I was like, I'm curious because that book came out. I haven't marketed that book ever, really.
What's the name of the book again?
I probably shouldn't say this, but yes. You type that in, it doesn't even come up.
It doesn't come up.
You have to go to the book section of Amazon.
Oh, wow.
Do you know how cool it is? Sorry, I know we're going to end, but do you know how cool it is to type in I prefer Peter and it's the first one to pop up?
Oh, that's awesome.
You can type in Peter Pan retelling and it's on the first page.
Really?
Or type in just my name and it pops up.
Isn't that incredible?
It's wild.
I Googled. That's how I looked on Amazon. I prefer Peter.
You Googled me? No.
I Googled the title of the book and it finished it. I put I prefer and it said Peter. I clicked it and it was the first thing on the Amazon the book was.
That's so cool.
Like, yo, dude. It finishes. Like when it finishes for you, you're like, dude, this is real.
See, I thought it just finished it for me because I've searched it on Amazon so many times.
No, I just put I prefer, and I didn't even finish prefer.
Wow.
I was like PREF, prefer Peter. And I was like, yo,
dude,
that's what's up.
That's cool.
I'm so pumped for you. Yo, get the book. It's available on Amazon. You can also purchase it on TikTok. But hey, Google it. Google it. If you order on Amazon, it helps her on the rankings.
Yeah.
And then leave a review.
Leave a review. Yes. Even if you hate it.
Every review is good review.
Yes.
Yeah. Man, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me. This has been awesome.
Yes. It's a long time coming.
Yeah.
I've been trying to get you on here for a long time.
I know. Too long. Yeah. But this was perfect timing.
Like I said, yeah. Perfect timing to get you on here. And
I'll be on here again. Yeah, I have so much, obviously, too much to say.
You're a great guest. You have to come on here again.
Thanks.
And you said this is part of a trilogy?
Yeah. Man. And the audiobook, I'm working on that.
So we do have an audiobook coming.
We have an audiobook coming.
You know, I just kind of think with the creativity that you have, the audiobook will be fire.
The audiobook's going to be so much. I'm doing the audiobook.
Wow.
Just me. I got all the voices in there. There's a New Yorker, there's an American, there's a British dude. It's gonna be wild.
I love audiobooks. So I'm always in the car. So that's something that would definitely.
It's like one of those dramatic readings. Yeah. You know those dramatic cast readings?
Yes.
It's kind of like that. I'm not boring to listen. I'm listening to it. I have like a draft of the prologue right now. That's all I have. I'm cackling. I'm like, I can't believe this is happening.
That's hilarious. You know, I went through the whole Bible when they did it with Idris Elba playing.
Yes.
And they had different celebrities playing different characters. I listened to the whole Bible.
It's so good.
I was like, yo, this is great.
Yeah.
And it puts context.
Yes.
And so many stories.
Yep.
Oh, you know, I wanted to bring this up because people always get offended at the context of people's stories.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you not getting offended in the Bible?
No,
like Samson literally had his head between a woman's legs. You know, and no one makes any reference to that.
David had an affair.
Yes.
And he was a man after God's own heart.
Affair with his homeboy's wife.
He killed his homeboy.
Because
he put him on the front lines.
To kill him.
Yep.
Just to, because his homeboy wouldn't sleep with his wife.
I know.
Because he's dedicated. And David was like, all right, man.
I know.
You ain't going to sleep with her. You ain't going to sleep with your wife.
I know.
Like the stories. Like I was thinking about Genesis last night. Just Genesis. We have a brother kills his own brother.
This is the beginning of the book.
The beginning of the book. The dude killed his brother, and then you had Jacob. Jacob's mom was like, "Yo, put the animal fur on your arm so you can steal the birthright." And then he works for his father-in-law for 14 years and gets. I heard a pastor say he gets cockeyed Leah. He's like, "I don't want Leah." He was like, "You gotta have her."
That's so good.
So just like the drama in just the first book. In context, it's like if this offends you, Genesis should offend you too.
Yeah, but we believe it, and we read it, and we live by it.
We live by it, and we don't think anything about it.
No,
like Samson's like one of the most incredible stories in my mind.
Yeah,
I'm like, yo, this is real. This is a dude.
Samson was one of my favorites since I was like 9.
Bro, he's murking people. He's murking people, and then he gets caught with his head in the lap of Delilah, and people are like, he wasn't sleeping.
Wrong place, wrong time.
Right.
He's still a good guy.
There's only 2 things you do there. And one of them is not sleeping. So it's like.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody about that literally when I was getting my hair done the other day. And I was like, yeah, some people don't like fantasy. And I was talking to her about like that we own a church and everything like that. She goes, you know, it's funny. People hate fantasy, but they love the Bible. And not that the Bible's fantasy.
Right.
But the stories in there are pretty crazy because you know
stories.
Just the things that happen.
Yeah.
Jonah gets eaten by a whale.
Yeah.
Lot's wife turned into salt. She literally was like, Lot's wife turned into salt. What's that about? I laughed so hard because I don't know if she was a Christian, but the fact that she knew some of these things, I was like, you got to know something.
Yeah.
And she's like, and I was like, Daniel and the lion's den, God shut them out the lions. I'm like, really? That's why kids love the Bible so much.
Yeah.
That's why I love teaching Sunday school because I got to teach these kids. And the more you teach them, the more they grow because we grow up to just know it. And the more you talk about it, the more you're like, that is pretty wild.
Yes.
And it's true, though.
It is true.
So that's why I'm like, you know, fantasy is so much fun to write because the Bible is kind of like, it's not fantasy, though. It's real, but it's the best book I've ever read.
Way out stories.
It's crazy.
He did what the who now?
Yeah, and it really happened.
Yes.
And it's like, that's one reason why I didn't understand why my dad didn't understand the books. I was like, the Bible has some pretty crazy things, and you preach it every day.
Every day.
I like the serpent talked. Is that weird for you that the animals talked? So yeah,
and
I
agree.
agree.
In the stories were prostitutes.
Yeah,
and they're like make up a lot of the stories.
Yeah,
from Rahab to Mary Magdalene to the woman that was at the well.
Yeah,
like these aren't like Disney characters.
No, these are real people.
These are real people, and they have had life happen to them.
Yeah.
So yeah,
the Bible's real too.
It's real.
It's not even like, oh, Jesus wrote it to be fun,
no,
or like Jesus was a smut author or something like that.
He didn't mix words. He didn't mix words. Like this is what Rahab did.
Yeah.
And bro,
it's so good.
It's good.
That's so funny. That's so true.
Yeah.
You should just post that segment online and be like, this is
what we're gonna talk about in this podcast. It's definitely gonna be up there.
That's so good.
I'm gonna definitely make
you can splice this up too. Yeah. Do you ever make reels? I don't think I follow you on this. Do you have an Instagram for this?
No, not for this page. I just
okay, cool.
All lumps into my personal Instagram.
Oh, sweet.
Sometimes I make reels.
Because I was like, I definitely follow you on
your
on
Facebook or something.
Yeah.
Or something you do.
Yeah.
But I make reels. I need to do them more often. My thing is I don't do them because I read comments. And I should never read the comments because it hits me too hard. People are mean.
Yeah, people are horrible.
They're horrible people.
Have you ever read the comments on Bible Time with Charlie?
No.
That's my brother, everybody, by the way. Go follow Bible Time with Charlie. He's awesome.
Yeah.
Charlie gets the worst comments, and they're not even about what he's talking about. They're about him. Like, your forehead's too big. It's like,
yeah,
that's just people wanting attention.
Yeah.
But it's like, people are horrible, and he laughs at them. Charlie's awesome. Yeah. He's like the one person I look at and I'm like, I wish I could be like that. Because if somebody called my forehead too big, I'd think about it for a month.
Me too.
Think about it for a month.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty wild. Yeah. And I'll fight back, which is not good.
Yeah.
So it's like, but Charlie fights back, and Charlie taught me, you have a good point, you're okay to fight back. As long as you got a good point, you're gonna shut them up. Go ahead. But he's like, if you can't like counter your argument, don't say anything.
Yeah.
But Charlie's a good person to talk to about that, because he gets the most hate comments I've ever seen. Jeez. And he's awesome about it.
Yeah, I don't, because I want to defend him.
Yes.
So I don't read the comments.
Yep.
Because I'm like,
I almost did.
I get to the point where I'm like, I remember Candace Owens was talking years ago that she was working on an app that gets the IP address to the comment section.
No.
So you can find their IP address and find out physically where they were. And the government like shut it down. This was right when she was making a switch from Democrat to Republican. That's what she was working on.
That's crazy. That's creepy.
In my head, I'm like, I need that.
I need that.
But then I started thinking, it's like, man, I can't go through life like that.
I do look at their page though to see like,
yeah,
if they're ugly.
And
it's so bad because sometimes they are, and I'm like, that's why you're me.
And sometimes, man, Charlie, the last time Charlie was on my show, we were talking about that, and he was like, if you look at their page, there's always like them with a dog or holding a banjo or a guitar or something like that with no comments.
No, they have like 3 followers, and they follow like 17,000 people. Yeah. So it's like, okay, you can call me ugly. It's all good.
Whatever.
But what I did get, dude, do we have to leave?
No, good talk.
I got one more thing.
Okay.
I got this, he's laughing. He's like, I want to leave. No, I got this comment. And in my book, I made like these reels and everything for the marketing. And I got CapCut, which is that app on TikTok that everybody uses to promote their stuff. And there's some really cool things on there to promote your book. There's this one thing that I used where it's a book, and I don't know if you saw this, but a hand goes inside of the book and pulls stuff out of the book.
I saw some interesting stuff. I don't think I saw that, but some of your reels I saw, I was like, that's a good edit.
Yeah. So some of those edits I made. This edit, I don't know how to do that.
It was on the template.
It was on the template. Yeah. So it was free. I paid for CapCut, whatever I did, and I started using this thing. And it pulled out, heaven forbid, it pulled out AI characters, right? And it pulled out different like genres of the book. And it's a really cool concept that I made.
I did see that.
And it was cool.
I saw that, yes.
It was cool. And I was like, I'm going to use this because people are like, oh my God, when the hand went inside the book, I freaked. I can't wait to buy your book. I'm like, cool, I'm going to use this one. Got this message, public comment from this guy. And he was like, 2 things. Can't believe that you're using AI characters. Shame on you. I was like, okay. I was like, all right. And he's like, the second thing is, I can't believe you stole an author's super cool video in order to market your own content.
I saw that comment because it appeared as I was watching it.
Yeah. Okay. I was like, okay, I'm going to comment back. So I did. This one bothered me. I got enough comments about the AI people to set me off. And I was like, here's the thing. And I made a video about it. And I was like, the AI thing, I get if you're an artist that you're going to be mad about that because this is a beautiful art thing to use. And it's free if you find it free. I happen to pay on Discord to use it. But I was like, it's a lot of work, first of all, to make these characters exactly the way you want. Because Discord is fucking stupid sometimes. Because I'll tell you exactly what I want. And it could be the exact opposite. It's almost like a joke.
Yeah.
It's almost like I want him to have brown hair. And he'll give me like brown fingers. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, no. But it's like, it's weird. And I was like, this is the thing. I made these characters. It's the exact representation that I want for my characters. And that's it. And I'm like, I could pay people to go and draw these for me, but say I don't like it. I might have to settle and pay $500 for these people to do that for me. Or I have to trust them, have trust issues, or I don't have that kind of time to make them draw 7 characters for me in the time that I need them. So I was like, I'm going to use AI. I'm not selling these characters. It's not like I'm selling the art because I'm all about promoting indie artists. I'm an indie artist.
Yeah.
So, and I can paint, I can draw. I just don't have that kind of time to do this. So I was like, pardon me for using AI for convenience to just promote my book. It's not like saying, hey, this is a real guy. You should buy his picture. I have stickers for $1. Yeah. It's like, okay, sorry. If you really want to draw it, I'll sell the sticker, make it exactly the same. Yeah. And I had to tell everybody, look, this is a real person. I was like, this isn't even like a created character. You think my boyfriend's a robot then? Yeah. So I was like, yeah, he's so good looking. You thought he was a robot. But it's like, I'm like, seriously, guys, it doesn't really matter. It's just the way I need to promote my art. As far as the CapCut thing went, I'm like, also, sir, I was like, this was free on CapCut to use. And I put in my pictures. Yes. So the hand would pull it out. I don't know who that hand is. I don't have the capability of doing that. I was like, everybody uses that. And if they don't find it, they will now. Yeah. But I was like, I happened to find that thing and I loved it. So I used it. I didn't create that. No, a lot of people did. But if anybody asks me, I don't say, yeah, I did that. I'm like, yeah, I edited that. I edited that video completely. I got all the pictures off of Pinterest that I wanted to use that like flashed. I was like, yeah, I put a lot of work into that. But no, that wasn't my hand. You can tell it's not my hand. Yeah. If you really look at the hand.
I knew it wasn't your hand, but I thought it was like, man, she knew how to edit. Like,
no, see, like, I wish I knew how to do that. But in my video, I'm like, I'm not a magician. I don't know how to do that. Yeah. So I was like, I had to tell them. I went to his feed. Unfortunately, he had a few thousand, like he had like 25,000 followers. Wow. And I was like, damn, I really wished he didn't. And then, but his whole profile was about gay books. And I was like, oh, you don't like me anyway. Yeah. So I was like, oh no. But it was all about that. And right when I came at him, he blocked me. And I was like, I won. Cool. Wow. It was so easy. I was like, I win. But it was just like that. It's always that, you know? Yeah. They're either ugly or gay. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
Or they're an artist that plays a banjo.
Or they're an artist that plays the banjo.
Or a corgi.
Or or a corgi.
Yeah, they have their corgi with them. Or a poodle.
Leave corgis alone. I love corgis.
I love Frenchies. Those are my dogs. The English.
Yes.
The English bulldogs.
I wanted one of those, but we got Pebbles instead.
What is it? What's Pebble? Oh.
Shih Tzu.
Oh. I think I've seen that.
She's cute.
Yeah. At your house.
Yeah.
I've seen that. Yeah.
She's precious, but my mom wanted an English bulldog.
Yeah, that's what I want.
They're so cute. They're so fat and they drool.
Yeah, play with it. And they skateboard.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
So yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
People are weird.
I gotta keep on it because I have so much that I could post. I just 1 or 2 comments and I'm like, you know what?
You can disable comments.
But then I won't get any comments.
You only want the good ones. You can filter comments.
I can, but then that means I have to read them to filter
them. You can do a keyword.
Oh.
Do not add comments with this keyword, but then you have to really get them.
Yeah.
You should have a comment monitor. You should have Rice monitor your comments.
There you go. Rice, you monitor my comments?
Yeah.
Of course. Because I think the comments will add, like if people keep commenting up, it keeps putting it up in the algorithm.
It does.
So that's why I'm like, we gotta keep the comment section going. But,
yeah.
Man. All right, we gotta get going.
Yeah.
I appreciate you so much.
I loved being here. I literally could talk to you all day.
Me too.
This is so much fun.
This is great. You gotta come back.
I will come back.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks for coming, man.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. I Prefer Peter. It's on Amazon. It's on TikTok. That's the book. HeritageParkPROD.com is the website. Go check us out. HPTV. Thank you all for your support. And follow her.
Yes. It's Miagic. So it's OOH. It's and then magic, but my name is the beginning. MIAGIC. It's Miagic. And then you'll see all my other profiles on It's Miagic, but that's the main one.
Give her a follow. Let her know you appreciate it. Tell her you got the book and preview the book.
Write a review.
Yeah, I review. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me. Yeah. You're awesome.
You're awesome. And stay tuned. We got more epic thoughts coming. Oh, wait. This is not TV. I was about to go to commercial. Thanks for watching us on Epic Thoughts. We'll see you next week. God bless. Peace out.